In the annals of comedy, few names shine as brightly as Joan Rivers. Renowned for her sharp wit and fearless approach, Joan carved a niche for herself in the entertainment world, leaving an indelible mark on television, stand-up comedy, and red carpet commentary. However, her illustrious career and vibrant life came to an abrupt and tragic end on September 4, 2014, following a routine medical procedure. This is the story of Joan Rivers' untimely death, a narrative that underscores the potential risks of even the most seemingly minor medical interventions. Joan Rivers, born Joan Alexandra Malinsky on June 8, 1933, in Brooklyn, New York, was the daughter of Russian Jewish immigrants Beatrice and Meyer Malinsky, a doctor. She grew up in a middle-class household in the neighborhoods of Prospect Heights and Crown Heights. From an early age, Rivers exhibited a flair for performance, creating her first alter ego, J. Sandra Meredith, at the age of 8. She attended the Brooklyn Ethical Culture School and Adelphi Academy before moving to Larchmont, New York with her family. She later graduated from Barnard College in 1954 with a degree in English literature and anthropology. Before entering show business, Rivers held various jobs, including a buyer for a chain store, a tour guide at Rockefeller Center, and a proofreader. Her career in entertainment began in the 1960s when she performed stand-up comedy in Greenwich Village, alongside notable figures like George Carlin, Woody Allen, and Richard Pryor. Her big break came in 1965 with an appearance on The Tonight Show, hosted by Johnny Carson, who became her mentor. This appearance catapulted her to fame and led to her hosting her own talk shows, including That Show with Joan Rivers and the groundbreaking The Late Show with Joan Rivers, making her the first woman to host a late-night network television talk show. Rivers' career was marked by her versatility and resilience. She won a Daytime Emmy for The Joan Rivers Show and became a beloved figure on the red carpet, co-hosting Fashion Police from 2010 to 2014. She also authored 12 best-selling books, released several comedy albums, and was a successful businesswoman with her jewelry line on QVC. Despite facing professional and personal challenges, including the suicide of her husband Edgar Rosenberg, Rivers continuously reinvented herself, remaining a relevant and influential figure in comedy and entertainment. But sadly, her bright life took a tragic turn in the most unexpected way. On August 28, 2014, Joan Rivers entered the Yorkville Endoscopy Clinic with the expectation of undergoing a routine medical procedure. She was there to have a laryngoscopy and upper gastrointestinal endoscopy, a procedure intended to investigate her vocal changes and address her persistent acid reflux. These procedures, while invasive, are generally considered low risk, especially for a patient in otherwise good health. As Rivers was sedated, the team began the planned procedures. The sedation was administered by Dr. Renuka Bankula, the lead anesthesiologist, who had a responsibility to ensure that Rivers remained stable throughout the operation. However, what happened next would turn a routine visit into a fatal sequence of events. During the procedure, Dr. Gwen Korovin, a highly respected ear, nose, and throat specialist, often referred to as the throat specialist to the stars, took the opportunity to perform an unauthorized biopsy on Rivers' vocal cords. This biopsy was not part of the original plan and had not been discussed with or consented to by Rivers prior to her sedation. The decision to perform the biopsy without proper authorization or preparation proved to be disastrous. As Korovin began the biopsy, Joan's vocal cords started to swell. This unexpected reaction caused a laryngospasm, a sudden spasm of the vocal cords that makes it difficult or impossible to breathe. Such a reaction can be life-threatening as it severely restricts the airway, cutting off the oxygen supply to the lungs and subsequently the brain. In the ensuing chaos, the medical team, led by Dr. Bankula, faced a rapidly deteriorating situation. Despite the apparent availability of emergency equipment and a crash cart, they struggled to manage the crisis effectively. The team attempted to ventilate Rivers manually by using a bag valve mask, trying to force oxygen into her lungs. However, their efforts were hampered by the spasm, which they failed to alleviate with muscle relaxants. More critically, they did not perform an emergency tracheotomy, a procedure that involves making an incision in the trachea to open a direct airway. As precious minutes ticked by without adequate oxygen, Rivers' condition worsened. The lack of oxygen led to cardiac arrest, and she was swiftly transported by ambulance to Mount Sinai Hospital. There, medical personnel worked to stabilize her, but the damage had already been done. Rivers had suffered severe anoxic encephalopathy, brain damage caused by the prolonged lack of oxygen. For 8 agonizing days, Joan Rivers remained on life support. Her family, friends, and legions of fans around the world waited anxiously, hoping for a miracle. However, the extent of her brain damage was too severe. Melissa Rivers, Joan's daughter, faced the heartbreaking decision of following her mother's wishes as outlined in her living will, which clearly stated her desire not to be kept alive artificially if there was no hope of recovery. On September 4, 2014, Melissa made the difficult decision to remove her mother from life support, and Joan Rivers passed away. In the aftermath of Joan Rivers' death, the New York City Medical Examiner's Office conducted a thorough investigation. The autopsy confirmed that Rivers' death was caused by anoxic encephalopathy due to hypoxic arrest during the procedure, classifying it as a therapeutic complication. This term, while clinical, failed to capture the full scope of the preventable errors and lapses in judgment that led to the tragic outcome. Questions loomed large over the adequacy of the medical care she received and the apparent lapses in protocol that may have contributed to her untimely demise. The events of that day highlighted critical failures in communication, consent, and emergency response at the Yorkville Endoscopy Clinic. As the details emerged, it became clear that this was not just a tragic accident, but a case that raised significant questions about medical protocols and patient safety. Following the tragic death of Joan Rivers, the spotlight shifted from the operating room to the courtroom. In January 2015, Melissa Rivers, Joan's daughter, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Yorkville Endoscopy and the medical professionals involved, alleging gross medical negligence and numerous violations of standard care protocols. The legal action accused the clinic and its staff of failing to provide the appropriate standard of care. Key allegations included: Number 1. Unauthorized procedure. The lawsuit highlighted that Dr. Gwen Corrivan performed an unauthorized biopsy on Joan Rivers' vocal cords. This procedure was not part of the initial plan and was carried out without Rivers' prior consent, which directly led to the medical emergency. Number 2. Failure to identify and respond to the crisis. The legal complaint emphasized the clinic's failure to recognize the severity of Rivers' condition in a timely manner. Despite clear signs of distress, appropriate measures, such as administering muscle relaxants or performing an emergency tracheotomy, were not taken. Number 3. Inadequate emergency response. The lawsuit claimed that Yorkville Endoscopy did not follow proper emergency protocols. The medical team was unprepared to handle the unexpected complication, resulting in a critical delay that exacerbated Rivers' condition. Number 4. Past malpractice issues. It was revealed that Dr. Renuka Bankula, the anesthesiologist on duty, had previously faced medical malpractice suits. This raised serious questions about the clinic's vetting and credentialing processes for its staff. The wrongful death lawsuit was settled out of court in May 2016. While the exact terms of the settlement were not disclosed, Melissa Rivers expressed that her primary goal was to ensure that no other family would have to endure a similar tragedy. She emphasized the importance of accountability and the need for medical facilities to adhere to the highest standards of patient care. The untimely death of Joan Rivers prompted significant introspection and reform within the medical community. Her case highlighted crucial areas needing improvement, sparking conversations on patient safety, regulatory oversight, and emergency preparedness. Joan Rivers' death underscored the need for stricter regulations and oversight of outpatient surgical centers, calls for more frequent inspections, Rigorous credentialing of medical staff and mandatory reporting of complications became prominent. Emphasis was placed on regular training, ensuring the readiness of emergency equipment, and establishing clear protocols for managing complications such as laryngospasms and cardiac arrest. The unauthorized biopsy highlighted the importance of informed consent and clear communication with patients. Healthcare providers were urged to ensure patients fully understand and consent to all procedures and to maintain thorough documentation. Joan Rivers' high-profile case raised public awareness about the risks of medical procedures and the importance of patient advocacy. Educational campaigns and advocacy groups have since worked to empower patients and improve transparency in medical care. The case pushed for stronger patient protections, ensuring fair compensation for malpractice victims, and advocating for legal reforms to uphold high standards of care. The sudden and tragic death of Joan Rivers had a profound impact on her family, particularly her daughter, Melissa Rivers. Joan and Melissa shared a close bond, both personally and professionally. Their relationship, filled with humor and mutual respect, was a cornerstone of Joan's later life, especially through their work on the television show Fashion Police. The loss of her mother left Melissa to navigate not only her profound grief, but also the complex legal and public ramifications of Joan's death. In the immediate aftermath of her mother's death, Melissa Rivers was thrust into the public eye. She faced the dual challenges of mourning her mother while also addressing the circumstances that led to her death. Likewise, she channeled her grief into writing The Book of Joan, Tales of Mirth, Mischief, and Manipulation. The book is a heartfelt tribute to Joan Rivers, filled with humorous and poignant stories that encapsulate her mother's larger-than-life personality. Writing the book served as a form of forced laughter therapy for Melissa, helping her to process her loss while celebrating her mother's legacy. Beyond the book and legal battles, Melissa Rivers has continued to honor her mother's memory through various initiatives. She remains involved in the entertainment industry, often speaking about her mother's influence and the lessons she imparted. Melissa's efforts ensure that Joan Rivers' legacy continues to inspire and entertain, while also advocating for necessary changes in medical practices to protect future patients. Even after her death, Joan Rivers' influence remains significant. Her groundbreaking career continues to inspire new generations of comedians and entertainers. The legal and medical reforms prompted by her case have the potential to improve patient safety and medical accountability, extending her impact beyond the realm of entertainment